My obligation then is to take that knowledge that I have and share it with as many people as I can so they don't have to go through what I'm going through and their families don't have to go through what my family is going through. Now, a few years ago, there was a movie put out that had Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman in it called The Bucket List. And there were two men in the hospital that had cancer. And they had about 6 months to go. And they decided that why don't we sit down and make a list of all the things that we would like to do before we kick the bucket. And so they came up with they'd like to jump out of airplanes, they'd like to race cars, they'd like to go to Egypt and visit the pyramids, and all of these fun things. And I look at that and I think, well, how cool would that be? To take the last 6 months of your life and go off and do all the things that you've ever wanted to do. Then I got looking at that and I thought, well, how selfish is that? If I have an answer that can help other people avoid the situation that I'm in, be checked out of life early, cause their families to have major problems, losing their father, their grandfather, their husband, or maybe it's a wife that they might lose, losing their mother or their grandmother. If I have an answer that can help them, and I go off and I do something selfish, like doing the things that I really want to do, shame on me for doing that when I could be doing some good for someone else. So I look at that and I think, what can I do now to take the message that I have where I am right now and help other people avoid the situation that I'm in? So what happened was I belong to a cycling club of about 675 members. And Sterling Bear, who runs the cycling club, wrote an email out to the members of the cycling club. And he told a story about me and some of the things that I've been able to do in the state championships that I've won, and the national championships and the World Senior Games championships, and some of the things that I've done in cycling and triathlons and some of the races that I've been in. And a lot of the people in that club know who I am. And as a direct result of that one email, 22 people have contacted me and said, Martin, I'm scheduling my colonoscopy because of what you just said, or what I heard about you, or I have already scheduled it. Now, those are 22 people that have contacted me directly and told me that. Now, I know there are others out there who probably are doing it but haven't said anything about it. I was at Adam Urbanski's event in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and he asked me to impromptu say a few things to the group, and I did. As a result of that, 8 people have contacted me so far and said, I'm scheduling my colonoscopy. I continually get email after email after email or phone calls where people are telling me, because of what you just said, I'm getting mine done. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's gratifying. I had one friend that I talked to, and he said, Martin, I've been waiting for Medicare to kick in before I get mine because it's covered by Medicare. And I thought, well, what if you don't get Medicare? What if you have a problem and you don't live that long to get Medicare? Or what if that problem develops and it's not a matter of you living that long, but you now have a problem that's irreversible, a situation like what I've got. And I have people all the time tell me, well, I've been waiting, I've wanted to do this, but I'm afraid of what they'll find. Not a very smart move. See, I'm in a situation right now where my lifestyle has changed. I now am reading books that I never thought I would ever read. I'm visiting websites that I never thought I would ever visit. I'm going to doctor's offices that I would never, ever thought I would ever visit. I'm spending time driving a half an hour to radiation every day, spending a half hour in radiation, spending a half hour driving back. It's an hour and a half out of my day. And then I got to get back and somehow get back into the mood of what I need to do in my business. I'm carrying this chemo pack around with me everywhere I go. When I go to the gym, I can't do nearly what I used to be able to do. I have zero energy at night. I'm just completely wiped out. I'm up every hour on the hour. My body just wakes me up and says, it's time to go to the bathroom. I go in, and sometimes I have to go, sometimes I don't. But it's a problem that I have. I have now constant diarrhea because of the radiation that I have, so I have to take anti-diarrheal medicine. The doctor says no fruits, no vegetables, no fiber. I'm on a low-fiber or very low-fiber diet, mostly liquid diet, because the fiber is what causes a stool, and you can't pass the stool through this opening. And so now my body composition has changed. When I used to eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and protein sources, and I was very firm and muscular, I still weigh the same, but my body composition has changed. I can't ride my bike. I can't go out and exercise very much because I can't sweat and get this port wet. So everything about my life has changed. I can't travel. I can't go someplace and speak because I have to go in every day for radiation. So it becomes a real challenge for me, and my entire life has changed. And if I can share something with somebody and say, you don't have to go through what I'm going through, if you just do what I'm telling you to do, and go get your colonoscopy scheduled. If you're 50 and haven't gotten it done, you need to get it done. Here are the risk factors. 50. If you have discovered polyps in you before, get it done. If you have a family history of cancer, get it done. If you're overweight, if you smoke, African Americans have a higher incidence of cancer than others. And here is the number one risk factor, according to Dr. LePuc, who was Dr. Oz's physician who found his polyp in him. And he said, this is the number one risk factor. I feel good, let's go to lunch. In other words, there's nothing wrong with me. I can't see there to be anything wrong with me, so I'm not going to get it tested. That was me. First of all, I didn't know that the test existed. Second, even if it did, I'm not sure I would have gotten tested. In fact, my friend Joel Bauer called me on the phone. He said, Martin, if your doctor would have called you 15 years ago and said, there's a test that you can take that will help you prevent what you have so you don't have to go through what you're going through, would you have gotten that test done? And my answer was, Joel, I really can't say that I would have. Now, you might say, well, of course you would. I really can't say I would have. And why should I? I rode my bike 175 to 200 miles a week. I ran 25 to 30 miles a week. I swam. I went to the gym 6 days a week. I lifted weights. I ate clean. I was in perfect shape. I would go out and do all these races. I win many races that I'm in. I'm in good shape. Why would I even think that I would have this kind of a problem? And so I can honestly say that I would have done that. That's the number one risk factor, is if people think it won't happen to me, and so they don't do anything about it. That's a shame. And I'm here to say that I'm a living example of someone who everybody who knows me says, Martin, are you kidding me? He got cancer? How did that happen to him? He's one of the healthiest people that I know, one of the most active people I know. How did it happen to him? Well, I'm here to say if it happened to me, it can happen to anyone.
Right. Well, I just want to paint a picture for folks who are listening. Picture that you're an entrepreneur, you're working every day, or a business person, you're up and about and taking care of business every day, as Martin was, and here it is, just because he didn't know to do a cancer screening however many years ago. Look at what has happened in his life, where those activities no longer dominate his day. Now his day is taken up taking care of health-related things, and we can't do anything about it now. So I hope you really, as you're listening to this, you really, really, really stop whatever you're doing and say, okay, I'm going to schedule my screening and make sure that I don't have any precancerous polyps or any tumors or anything like that. And I say that now because after I spoke with Martin and I learned what he was going through, I told one of my friends who is over 50 years old Martin's story, and he said to me, oh, I don't have any time for that right now. I have other things going on. And I couldn't believe that, because everything you just heard from Martin, I shared with this person, and that was his response to me. The other thing I learned from Martin is that this applies to both men and women, not just men. So both men and women should be going in for cancer screening. So please, as you listen to this, really, really get conscious and go schedule an appointment to get a screening now, because you put it at the top of the list. Go ahead, Martin.
You know, Marlene, thank you very much for that. In 2006, there were 139,127 people diagnosed with colon cancer. 53,196 died from it. And there are about a third of the population, about 22 million people who are between the age of 50 and 75 who have not been tested. And I can't tell you how many people have told me the same thing that your friend told you, that I don't have time for this, or I talked to my husband, and my husband said that he doesn't see any need for it. In fact, just the other day, I got a call from someone or an email from someone rather, and he told me, he said, my doctor told me that we're going to do a stool sample to see if you need this. We did a stool sample. It came back with no blood in the stool at all. And so she said, you don't need to have this. It's a waste of your time. And I wrote back a long, detailed explanation. I told him there was no blood in my stool either. And I explained what happened. And I said, look, you can believe your doctor if you want to, but I'd be looking for another doctor. I would be doing something to negate what they just told me, or at least get a second opinion. And who is that doctor to tell you that just because there's no blood in the stool, you don't have the risk factor here? And you really do. I mean, this is absolutely scary what he went through. So he said now that he's going to go back and insist that they do the test, and which is a smart thing on his part. Doctors know so much. I mean, here's the thing: many of those doctors really don't know. They're general practitioners. Maybe they don't really know what's going on in some of these other areas. And if you want to just check out what happened with Dr. Oz, if you go to Dr. Oz, DOCTOR, DrOz.com, you can see an entire episode that he had on television that's right on his website, and what happened to him. Now, he's considered a pretty healthy guy. He runs every day. He watches his diet. He practices what he preaches on television. And he had a colonoscopy done, and he shows it right on TV exactly what happened and how they do the whole procedure. And they found a cancerous polyp in him, and he was in shock, total shock when he saw it. And his message now is to people to get this done. He'll show you a testimonial of a woman who says, my grandmother died of this cancer. I have other members of my family who have had this problem as well, but I'm afraid to go to the doctor because I'm afraid of what they're going to find out. Can you imagine? All this happens in my family, but I'm afraid to go because I'm afraid of what they'll find out. I have to tell you that had I had this done at age 50, maybe I would have passed, maybe nothing would have happened. But at age 60, if they would have found that, we could have stopped this thing, and I wouldn't have to go through what I'm going through right now. My life is totally and completely changed. Carrying this little bag around with me, going in for radiation. And here's the thing. I sit in that radiation room. I'm waiting for my turn to come, and I look around at the people who are in there, and I think, this is my new peer group. Mm-hmm. And some of these people are old, little tiny, skinny arms and legs. You think, how do they even stand up? They wear scarves on their head because they don't have any hair. The radiation has taken their hair away from them. They're just bent over, and you think, well, how did this have to happen to them? And this is my peer group now. And I'm thinking, how sad is that? These are not the athletes that I normally hang around with. Right. You know, this is a complete change. I mean, you talk about a physical change, but it's the emotional and mental change as well when you look around and say, this is my group. My gosh, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. The fact is I do belong there because I've got the same problem they've got. Mm-hmm. Now, fortunately, I haven't lost my hair, and they say that the new treatment that I have here and the way that I'm doing it may not cause that. But, you know, hair loss is a minor concern of mine at this point. I'm concerned more about whether or not I'm going to be here for next Christmas. Doctors said, well, you have about 6 months to a year to live. I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do the last 6 months of my life?